Hey guys, how you doing today? I've had a few questions about what to do with your plants in the winter. I know a lot of us struggle with lighting. We struggle with humidity, and it's a huge change from summer to fall, and then into winter, especially in deep winter. Now, I don't have, I'm not going to give you like five strict things to do or 10 strict things to do, or I'm just going to tell you, um, what I do with my plants in the winter that helps get me through the winter. And I would say the biggest one, if you have a lot of plants and you're kind of fighting for window space, um, I would say the number one thing that you could do is get you some supplemental lighting. Supplemental lighting is very easy. You could use a lamp, screw the bulb in. You could use a clamp light. There's many different versions of clamp lights out there. You could go with, and even a full spectrum light. Now, I would say if you're going to go and buy an LED um, light for supplemental, what I get is now I like for my plants, I like the 100 watt, but I didn't have the 100 watt box. I've got a 75 watt box here. Um, because we have LED lighting um, everywhere in our home, our basement, the garage, kitchen, front porch, it's everywhere. But these are some that we bought last year. They're just the um, great value from Walmart, and that is what I get. But like I say, for my plants, I like to have the 100 watt. But the 75 watt works well also. So, you don't have to get crazy, about it. But, anyways, those work really, really well. I use those in clamp lights, in lamps that I have various places throughout the house. And then last week or a couple of weeks ago, I also got this at Walmart. This is a regular full spectrum plant light. It's LED, and this one is, it says 60 watt equivalent. It's for indoor plants, flowers, and vegetables. It is the full spectrum, which is nice. I do like to use the full spectrum, and this is also a purple. It's got the purple light to it. Or, not light, but purple look, I guess. I don't know what to call it. But it's equivalent to 9 watt. So you're using 9 watts of power for a 60 watt bulb. And the 60 watt bulb in the full spectrum, that was all they had. But I got it and I've been using it and I really like it. I actually got two. Um, but like these 75 watt, the actual watch used is 13.5. I don't have the numbers for the 100 watt, but you're probably looking for the 100 watt. You're probably looking at about maybe 14 or 15 watts per 100 watt. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but um, oh, it says right here in the back, I think. Well, no, it just says 100 watt equivalent. And that's going to give you about 1500 to 2000 lumens. And that would depend on, you know, how close you actually have it to your plant. But what I like to do is, like, I have a light up there, which you can't really see it, and then I have another light over there. And I use mine mostly on cloudy days, kind of like how it is today. And I will turn them on if it's sunny and bright. Um, I don't use my supplemental lighting. I'll let the sun just do its work and coming through the window, and then I will turn it on because we're getting dark here in Ohio now. We're getting dark at about 6, I think it is, something like that. So I'll turn my lights on about 5:30, and then I'll let them run till about 9 o'clock at night, just so they're getting a good 10 to 12 hours of daylight, um, or light in general. But like for a dark corner in my house, I do run the LED full spectrum light, which is like the light that I showed you here, because I have a very dark corner in my dining room that has no light whatsoever. I get a little bit of fish tank light, I get a little bit of light coming in through my plant room, but it's just not enough. So I do use a full spectrum uh, light in that corner, but an LED may work okay too if you get 100 watt, and it depends on how many plants you have, probably, and what kind of lighting they really need. Like, I wouldn't suggest putting a high light plant under an LED light that doesn't have any other light source like a window. Your plants really do need actual sunlight and daylight for that full spectrum um, growth to grow. So, but anyways, I don't want to get into a whole bunch of that stuff. I'm just talking about, a really dark corner that doesn't have a lot of lighting in it. Um, and a really important thing is clean your windows. Because if you have dirty windows on the inside and out, it's going to stop all that great light from coming in properly. And so clean your windows, make sure your windows are clean. If you have curtains, like I do, you may want, and I just have shears, but I pull them back. In the summertime, I kind of keep them closed because I don't want full-on sun hitting my plants because they'll burn them. But in the wintertime, pull your curtains back. Give your plants as much light as you possibly can. And with between your clean windows and pulling your curtains back, it will really, really help your plants out a lot getting light. The other thing I would like to talk about is with our plants, I mean, we get a lot of dead leaves and stuff like that. Make sure you're keeping the dead leaves, dead and dying leaves off of your plants. Try to keep them as clean as possible, so that you don't start having a huge bug problem like spider mites or mealybugs or anything like that. Bugs are usually very attracted to what they think could be a sick plant, and if you have a bunch of dead leaves all over your plant, now I keep my plants very clean, and when I start seeing a yellowing leaf, I cut it off immediately. I try to keep up on that. Any dead leaves in the bottom of your pots, on your plants, yellowing leaves, take them off, snip it off, get rid of it, throw it in the trash. That is a very good practice to start. I like to do it when I'm watering. Watering day is usually, or anytime I water, I don't have a specific watering day. Because all plants need water at different times. So you can't really make, oh, I'm going to water on Monday, or I'm going to water every Wednesday, or because a lot of plants just don't need that cycle. And my other tip is try to use a preventative for bugs. You can use neem oil. There's bonide that you can put right in the soil. I used that last year. I'm not using the bonide this year. I'm using the neem oil. And so far I've been pretty happy with that. And there's a lot of other things out there. Just kind of do your research. Do what's easy for you. um, and what's healthy for your plants, and of course the environment. But you just want to be very mindful of trying to use a preventative, especially on plants that you know have bug issues, especially in the wintertime, because of the drier air, you're not getting as much sunlight on them, and it makes the difference in the winter. Usually in the winter I see more spider mite just because of the drier air, which takes me into my next tip is um, humidity in our home. Um, I think a good spot for humidity is about 50%. And anywhere from 50 to 60. I mean, you don't want to go crazy. You don't want to go too much overboard and have really, really high humidity in our home. Our homes are not a greenhouse. We can't, you know, your house can't deal with 80% humidity. You're going to get mold. And not only are you going to get mold and fungus issues with your plants, um, you're going to get mold on your furniture, on your walls, you know. I mean, our homes are not equipped to have really super high humidity. And 50-60% is really good for the majority of plants. And if you have tropicals, um, just put them closer to your humidifier. Because I run a humidifier. I know like a lot of people don't like to run humidifiers, but I do in the winter. Um, I have one in my living room and I have one in my plant room, and that's all the humidifiers that I run in the winter. And I don't run them every day because a lot of times, especially here in Ohio, I mean, we have a lot of precipitation, even if it's just rain or snow, and it depends on the kind of snow, because sometimes you can get a dry snow. And my house will hold usually about 50% humidity and even higher. You know, if it rains and rains and rains, I mean, my house humidity can shoot up to like 70%, which freaks me out. Which goes on to my next tip. If you're running a humidifier or you've just got high humidity in your house because of where you live, um, you want to make sure you have good air circulation. Run your fans, whether it's a floor fan, a ceiling fan. You can see my plants are moving. I do not have a ceiling fan here in my living room, so I do have to run a floor fan, which is fine. It doesn't bother me. Um, but like all my other rooms have ceiling fans except for this room and my plant room, so I have to run a floor fan in there. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. You're going to get fungus on your plants. You're going to get mold on your walls and your furniture in your house if you're keeping your humidity up and you don't have air circulation. Now, the forced air with furnaces, that may be enough um, to keep air circulating. I'm not sure. I don't use forced air. We run a propane ventless fireplace in our home in the winter, and obviously that doesn't move any air like a furnace would. Um, and that's another thing. If you're running your furnace, um, just like air conditioning in the summer, you want to keep it away from that heat blowing out of your ducts because that will dry out your plant. It may cause crispy leaves, and so you don't want it directly hitting your plants. Um, Now, another thing, your watering will change in the winter, just like it changes in the summer. So you want to be a little more mindful of um, your watering habits. Some plants may not need as much water in the wintertime as they do in the summertime. Um, you know, it's not 80 degrees anymore. Most of us keep our house heat between high 60s. I'm talking usually 67, 68 up to 70, 71, maybe a little higher. I don't know for some people. We keep our house temperature about 68, 70. It kind of fluctuates. But so be mindful of your watering. Not every plant is going to need water on the same day. So, and I rather enjoy that. I'd rather water a few plants every day than try to water all my plants in one day. I mean, that is just crazy. But I also have a lot of plants, so for me it would be like an all day thing to water all my plants in one day. And I just don't do that. So be mindful of watering. Check your plants, and if they're dry and they need water, water them. If they can go a few more days, check them again, and um, water them when they need it. Don't water all your plants at one time, because that's also, especially if you have a lot of plants, if you're watering a whole lot of plants in one day, that's going to raise your humidity, which is kind of good in a one way, because if you're raising your humidity a little bit, you wouldn't have to run your humidifier, which goes on to the next thing, which I think will be my last tip, is if you've got your plants in front of windows and you're growing under grow lights, any kind of light, whether it's a LED light, which does make your plants grow, a full spectrum grow light, which makes your plants grow, make sure you're feeding your plants. Now, some plants will just sit still all winter long. They don't do a lot of growing. Um, they're not requiring a whole lot of water, and that's fine. But when you have plants that are actually growing and getting new tips and biting out, and you're seeing, make sure you're feeding your plants in the winter. I've heard so many people, and I don't want to get into this too much because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I hear a lot of people say, do not feed your plants in the winter. That, to me, is ridiculous. I've been growing houseplants for a very, very long time. I'm not a beginner houseplant grower. I'm I've been growing plants for about 40 years. So, and I've always fed my houseplants. My mom has always fed her houseplants in the winter. If they're growing, they need to be fed. Because what's going to happen is if you've got your plants in front of windows, if you've got grow lights on, if you've got LED lights on, guess what? Your plants are growing. I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of why you're putting in supplemental lighting? Because your plants need light. So if they have light, they're growing. So in return, they need to be fed. Now, you may not have to feed as often as you would in the summertime, because like I said, the heat makes a lot of difference, I think, in my opinion. We're not talking about 80 and 90-degree weather, and most plants really like that warm weather, which really pumps up their growth. But if you've got them under light and they're growing and you can see they're growing, don't stop feeding them. It's important that you keep feeding them, because otherwise you're going to end up with spindly leaves that are curling up and not opening up and dying. Um, if they're growing, they still need that energy to push out the growth and push out a leaf and open up a leaf and grow. So, I think that is all my tips. And if you guys have any other questions or something that I forgot to mention, which I'm sure I did, even though I wrote everything out on a piece of paper because I knew I wouldn't remember everything. But that's it for my tips, guys. Make sure they've got good light and enjoy your plants in the wintertime. I think wintertime growing plants is, for me, because I don't have small kids living at home anymore, and it fills up my time. So, and I love taking care of my plants, so it's important. The lighting is important, and the feeding is important. So just keep an eye on your plants, and if you see new growth popping up, make sure you're watering those plants, guys, and look into some different lighting. The LED, like I get mine at Walmart. They're a lot cheaper than other brands, and they work great. I've had all these lights for my LED lights for like 2 or 3 years now, and my plants love them. My plants grow from them, and they keep thriving. So that's the important thing, that our plants stay healthy during the winter. So I am going to let you guys go, and I will talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye. Peace.